Today I'm going to explore the Book of Abraham facsimiles. I'm going to focus on facsimile 2, figure 7, the min Horus figure in the round hypocephalus. And I'm going to try to acquire an understanding with you of why Joseph Smith described this figure the way he described it. I think it's a really excellent summation of the points that this figure is trying to symbolize. Joseph Smith didn't give us the background, he didn't give us the theological ramifications, he didn't give us any justification for why he interpreted this figure in the manner that he did. But his summary is the epitome of perfection for what this cluster of symbols, I'll put it that way. There's probably 5 or 6 areas within this one figure, and what I'm going to do is discuss a little bit of each part of this figure, because there's several different figures within number 7. And then I want to discuss the significance of the panel that number 7 is in, and I'll compare some other various hypocephali with you. So, come on with me on another adventure on discussing the Book of Abraham facsimiles. You know, the Book of Abraham facsimiles are probably the most controversial aspect, along with the papyri, of any of the work that Joseph Smith ever did. And that's how it should be. We should be willing to explore, to try to comprehend and understand. I mean, the idea of Egyptian antiquities in America in Joseph Smith's day is really quite remarkable when you think about that. 1835? So far as we know, for the first 60, 70 years, Joseph Smith's hypocephalus, the facsimile number 2, was the only hypocephalus known in America. It was certainly the first one here in America. The reason the figure 7 in the facsimile number 2 is so controversial is, of course, because he's ithyphallic. And there are people who say, well, this is just religious pornography. Is that the case, though? If we look at it as a symbolism, which is how we should, because it says to represent God upon his throne. Now, this is symbolic. This is not a depiction of reality. So I want to show why I think the symbolism, as well as Joseph Smith's explanation, is quite appropriate in this figure. And there's a lot of materials that we have, even over the last say 25 years within my lifetime, that show that we have a most remarkable cluster of symbols and associations involving the grand keywords of the priesthood, as Joseph Smith's explanation said. I think it's important to read the explanation of Joseph Smith on the figure 7. It represents God sitting upon his throne, revealing through the heavens the grand keywords of the priesthood, as also the sign of the Holy Ghost unto Abraham in the form of a dove. Now we can see here that he's commenting on an Egyptian document. And these are Egyptian symbolisms and several of the Egyptian deities as well. I mean, we have hieratic writings on them. We have hieroglyphics around the rim. This is an Egyptian document, plainly. And yet he's giving us Christian language, the Holy Ghost in the sign of a dove, the key words of the priesthood. I mean, that's Judaic language. There seems to be an assimilation of languages, of concepts, and adaptation of the symbolisms for the different cultural uses as the different cultures acquired these. But of course, this has happened through the eons of time, so far as I can tell. I don't know of any. Through the years, through the centuries, the millennia, the conquering nations overtook and assimilated the other nations in themselves. The history of Judaism shows that very clearly. Obviously, they were Hellenized. They adapted the Greek. That's when the Septuagint was written, 300 BC. It was translated into the Greek. The Hebrew Scriptures was translated into the Greek. And the Hellenization of the Jews is a real famous example. So Joseph Smith is using Mormon concepts. He's using Christian language on an Egyptian document. But it does have connections And that's what I want to show you. I'll show you this figure along with several other different hypocephali and discuss it now with you. Okay, now this is Joseph Smith's hypocephalus, and we can clearly see that it has different parts. I'm going to focus on this area right here. This is our figure 7. It seems to me that there are several different aspects of this character. We have the bird figure here, and then this little stand in front of the seated deity here. I'm not quite sure what that stand is. I think it's a lotus stand, but I know Alan Fletcher in his new guide to the facsimiles discusses something else. I'll get with you on that. And then this figure is presenting a wedge-out eye. And the figure on the throne, of course, is another aspect. And the throne itself is a very important aspect in the study of this figure. And then he's got his arm to the square with the whip and the flail. And notice he's got this tail, this hawk tail and wing. This is the Horus figure here. And then, of course, it's the entire, let me scoot this over just a little bit, it's the entire panel also that has some very interesting implications with the principle of the at-one-ment, the atonement, the regeneration of life, which is the whole point of all of the hypocephali as far as that goes. So this is the figure I'm concentrating on. Normally, you see the hypocephalus in this manner, right side out. So that when you do look at this figure, it's actually upside down in the Purligate Price. But I showed it right side up to you so that I could discuss it with you. Now this is it, backside, right side down. The controversial part of this, the reason folks are saying that this is pornographic is, of course, you can see the male member right there. And that's what ithyphallic means, is he's... And this is why they call it religious pornography. Well, it is symbolic. You know, the idea to depict God in such a crude way is just almost blasphemy, according to many. Oh, you can hear cows moaning in the background. They're calling the Hathor cow here. We're going to have some special sound effects. Anyway, I'm out here in the mountains up on Taylor Mountain here in Idaho. It's a beautiful spot. So I want to discuss the various elements of this facsimile with you, and show you some others also. In the Ashmolean hypocephalus here, you can see the seated deity right there, and the ithyphallic snake figure with legs. They're both ithyphallic here, but you notice he has the hawk wing, or the hawk tail, and he is sitting on a throne. And this figure here is presenting the wedge-out eye. And so, and it doesn't look like the whole stand is drawn here. I mean, these are individually drawn for individuals. It's a kind of a quick drawing, but you can see how this compares with the Ashmolean facsimile. And then this is the Henry Muir hypocephalus, and again, the ithyphallic walking snake is presenting the wedge-out eye to the figure on the throne, who is not ithyphallic, but he does have that hawk tail, and his arm is to the square. I don't see any stand in this one, but so there's variations of a theme, but the main principles are there is a figure presenting a wedge-out eye to the seated deity, and he usually has his hand to the square with the flail, and he's usually presented with the hawk tail or the wings. So this is Horus. It's pretty much understood to be him.